You were saying that, well, right now you all operate mainly in Latin America, but you all are moving into the Caribbean. So, what are you all looking to do with to work with the governments in the Caribbean? Where are you all looking to hit first?
Well, what we think it's good to well, just to start working on the whole issue in a broader because the Caribbean has a very specific agenda on drugs. I think very similar to many other countries in Latin America, but the geopolitical situation is of course very different from other regions because it has little nation states, it has still colonial territories, it has semi-colonial territories, so it's sort of a mix of state forms and governments, and it is an area that is very much affected by drug trafficking. It has a large history of cannabis, both cultivation and consumption. Um, and well, I mean, nobody ever talks about drug policies in the Caribbean. As far as I know, there's very few people addressing this issue from this perspective. Um, and policies are really repressive. So we feel it would be good to let. I mean, there's so many things happening around this about around drug policies in the Latin America that it would be good to involve the Caribbean as well in this debate, and to look if the Caribbeans themselves feel like they are they need changes or they want to change the current situation. I know the prison situation in the Caribbean is terrible, and I also know that many people are imprisoned for drug offenses, and not all of them are like really kingpins or big traffickers. So there's still quite a big stigma on drug use and drug users, and it would be good to address these issues also around HIV/AIDS transmission, about everything that has to do with drug use and its consequences. That is sort of a taboo to speak about openly. I understood. As you said, it's a very conservative environment, and we think it would be good to see how these problems can be addressed in a different way, because obviously the current policies do not really work. I mean, consumption is still on the rise. Social problems are still there, and the current model is not working. So we think if there are people in the Caribbean who think it should be done otherwise, and we do have some people colleagues working in harm reduction and in cannabis issues that think that the Caribbean is also, it's time for some change and some debate in the Caribbean about drug policies. So that's why we think we can offer some kind of assistance, because we've been doing this for 20 years now, and we think it would be good to have more and more people on our side.
Okay.
I mean, alcohol is also like, it's a drug, right? But it's a socially accepted drug. So, but there's lots of problems with alcohol. There's lots of people who can't consume them in a reasonable method, in a reasonable way. So there's people who are addicted to alcohol. They have problems with alcohol. Alcohol is also inciting into violence in many cases. It is a problematic drug for many people. So which government in the world would say no? We have a law, and it's not in the law, so we don't have to do anything about it, because that would be ridiculous, right? I mean, that would
Yeah.
be escaping their responsibilities. So yeah, as drugs, legal or illegal, need policies. So if you explain it that way to people, they might understand why drug policies are needed.
Yeah.
And if you are, I mean, if you're completely, let's say, clear, drugs are all the substances that are psychoactive, which is both legal and illegal. Huh? So I mean, you can't make this distinction if you talk about drugs. What you can distinguish is that some of them are declared legal and others are not. And there's there's a good reason to reconsider that in the case of cannabis, because it's less dangerous than alcohol.
It
So
is. Yeah.
less dangerous, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a less big health threat cannabis than alcohol. There's more people having problems when they drink alcohol than when they smoke a joint, right? Most people get really happy and they get laid back and they relax and they don't become a public hazard when they smoke a joint. So I mean that's really double standards, right?
Yeah.
And that's reflected in the law. You can say, well, this is what the law is, but laws can be changed if the people want that, and if they think it's necessary, they can change because they reflect a certain time frame and understanding and scientific evidence that also change. I mean, our knowledge changes, so laws can also be changed.
But I would say you mentioned knowledge, right? As much as the Caribbean, well, especially Barbados, we have the internet and access and what's not. I'll be very honest, there is a huge knowledge gap between the Caribbean and the rest of the world. No matter how much internet we have, because when you watch like advertisements, an
Yeah,
advertisement in America or Canada or England is going to tell you how much information you can go and find with your new internet package on your cell phone. When, even though it's going to tell you about entertainment as well. But an advertisement in the Caribbean is going to tell you how many selfies you can put up on Instagram and what's not. So because the mentality here is entertainment. Because I think it's also tourism driven. We are very entertainment driven. So we do not really seek information, especially the young people do not really seek information. And people are going to curse me for making a general statement, but a general statement has to be made at some point in time. The young
yeah.
people on a whole do not know much about anything, especially when it
Yeah,
pertains to the
but
Caribbean.
that's also because of education, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
if education would be better, if people would be, if young people would be educated to be critical thinking persons and not just merely consumers, then things would change. I mean, they would demand access to information that is in their favor, and instead of being just simple consuming entertained young people that want to have the new app and that's it, right? I mean, it's also a time frame and it's also a sign of time, let's say, but still education is basic. And if education is not good and if information is not seen as an important, let's say, public good, and if the press and if everything is not honest and not open and transparent, of course, you generate young people who who don't think for themselves. They just consume.
And that lack of
So,
demand is also the reason why our political platforms during election time are so uh, lacking and underwhelming in information. We do not demand information. So really and truly, you cannot blame the politician, even though you can still blame the politician, but you can't blame him that much for not giving you the information because people are not asking the pertinent questions. The
yeah, yeah,
journalists are not asking the hard questions that need to be asked. They're not asking about what drug policy, other than drug laws, are you putting in? What education policies are you seeking to implement? People in Barbados don't know anything about Trinidad. Trinidadians don't know anything about Jamaicans. Jamaicans don't know anything about St. Lucians. We don't
yeah,
know who's your prime minister. We don't know what we can and cannot do in each other's countries, and we are
yeah,
actually very just underinformed. I mean, it's to the point that we don't even seek to know our own selves or what we're
yeah.
doing in the world.
But I mean, William, it's there's you are there. I mean,
Yes, yes.
you are there, and there's much more Williams around. I mean, you must not be. I'm sure you're not the only one that wants to change these things and try to. I mean, you think about what you do and what you are and what the consequences is. So, I mean, as long as there's people like you, there's hope, right? I mean,
Of
so
course.
things can change. Yeah.